Hello, everyone. Welcome to LOA Uncorked. This is Holly.
And this is Gina.
Oh, Gina.
I know.
We got the real deal in the house today.
I know.
Okay, you should be scared.
I am scared.
Okay, because she is.
I'm
okay,
scared.
it starts with a PH. Why? And usually it's a psychic, and I'm okay with psychics,
Yeah.
but it's a physicist.
I know.
It's a physics major.
I know.
I mean, that means math, Gina.
With a PhD.
I know. And an MBA.
And MBA.
I mean, and a doctor. I mean, I don't know. We've got a lot of things going on here.
I know.
Here's the thing.
I
We have to
know.
confess.
I feel like the dummy in the room today.
I'm a CFO. Like my ex, you know, like it's in numbers, but somehow numbers scare me. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I wonder if physics scares her. We'll have to ask.
I don't think it does.
I don't think so either. But.
Okay, listen. Today we have a best-selling author. I think she has 8 books and counting. She can correct me.
Yes. Yep.
She's the host of Living the Quantum Dream on Dream Visions Radio. It's a podcast too. We're going to link all this stuff so you don't need to keep track of it. She's also been shown on the Discovery Channel.
Yes.
I mean, she's a TV star.
Yeah. And other shows as well.
The History Channel, Coast to Coast AM and BBC.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things, she's a speaker and a coach. We can talk to her a little bit about that as well. But one of the things that I love about her, besides physics, which we're going to get into, is her favorite question. How good can it get?
I know.
We want to know.
Yeah.
Welcome, Cynthia Sue Larson to LOA
Good
Uncorked.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's so good to see you, ladies.
So thrilled to have you.
Yes, and it is morning. We're all on the West Coast. Yay!
Oh, West. Yes, we have somebody on our same coast, which we do love that too. That's nice. Well, welcome, Cynthia. I think what we typically start with on the podcast is an opportunity for you to kind of share a bit about yourself. I kind of say the milestones of Cynthia, like the kind of core tenets of who you are. It's a bit about your background and history, just to kind of ground the conversation. That, you know, whatever you feel like those listening today would be important to know about you, and then we'll kind of get into the conversation if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, it's hard to summarize oneself, but I think of myself as being kind of tuned in, mystical, intuitive, in addition to having studied physics and all of that, and working with both the spiritual and the scientific. And that's been something that I've been fascinated with all my life, is consciousness, the nature of it, how we connect with nature, weather, animals, each other, and that there's so much more going on than meets the eye. So that's really my passion. And then when we look at what is that, when you study the nature of reality, my dad pointed out, well, math is the prince of the sciences. And so I was raised in a very scientific home. And that's why I decided to pursue physics as a major at UC Berkeley. And then I continued with that to get involved with Foundations of Mind, which was a group where we would invite people to give talks on what did they think consciousness is all about. And then I also separately had a smaller little thing going, which we called the quantum paradigm. And I got lots of physicists together in my home and other places, and we'd talk other people's homes, and we'd talk about consciousness and the quantum paradigm. In other words, we understand the theories. We see equations like E equals mc squared, and that all seems fine and dandy. But when you get into quantum physics, people assume quite frequently that there is this agreement of what's going on. There's no agreement. There is no agreement. There is discussion, sometimes animated, active discussion about what's really happening. And when you get into consciousness and quantum physics, it gets especially heated energy. So what do I mean by that? It's just like, you've heard of things like the multiverse, you've heard of the holographic universe, you've heard of these ideas, but these are ideas in terms of possibilities and possible ways of explaining the wild, woolly, wonderful world of quantum physics, which has to do with photons and spooky action at a distance, the Schrodinger's cat, which might be alive or dead or both inside of a box, and then the double slit experiment. So a lot of these things, people have heard of them vaguely. How does it tie in with our daily life? That's what I love to explore.
I love the spooky stuff at a distance. That's important. I think that's really good. Yeah, the distance, extra on the distance. That's how. So have you always, Cynthia, being from the family that you were in, and very, very much focused on, education, mathematics, more of the
Science.
linear processes of those. Were you always aware of your intuition?
Yes, I was kind of an oddball in that family. Maybe not a complete oddball.
Right.
But I was the one who could kind of see energies, and I could see things that aren't there, and I could feel the energy of like a weather pattern and so forth. I could feel conscious agency behind things, which was not ever acknowledged in the Western education that I went through, that I got. And it wasn't part of my family of, except for my grandmother. My mother's mother was very spiritual, and she and I would talk for hours about angels and God and that kind of thing.
Love it.
Oh, I love that you had that connection.
I love it.
Well, you've written several books, and I'm sure we'll incorporate some of that. So Reality Shifts, that's a wonderful book. Quantum Jumps, Aura, Advantage, I love that. And there is, she even has a video on how to see your own aura. That it's not just, it's not just Cynthia that can do that, I guess. And then I love high energy money. Okay. And so, she's written so much work, but one of the things that I love is that, how, first of all, we have a lot of people saying, what is the quantum field, and maybe we can explain that. And then how do we bring in, I think this is what I love about you. You're so practical, and this blend of mystic and science and this practicality that anybody you think can do this in their daily lives to make things better, to how good can it get? This is where I think it comes from, right? And so what is that quantum field? How do we make quantum consciousness a part of everyday life?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, quantum field theory is another kind of an interpretation again of what's going on, and I love it. I love transactional interpretation, which is the handshake between the future and the past. I love popping the quantum wave function, which is kind of like working with that quantum field of possibility. So all these ideas are just ways of looking at what's going on with this, what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, where there seems to be this strange way that quantum teeny tiny so-called building blocks of matter, they're so much more than just matter. And they seem like they're connected with one another. They're entangled with one another sometimes, so that if one has spin up and one has spin down, and they can be separated at great distance. If you measure one and it happens to be up, you'll know the other one's down. If you see it switch, then you know what happened. And then you can have groups of these working together. So within a quantum field, that would be the idea that there is this entanglement, there's this connection, that there's a way to harness this energy of the quantum effects. And we do it with our internet service, with our cell phones. We're using this quantum technology without really understanding what's going on. But in our daily lives, besides using our cell phones, how can we work with this? Well, some of the features of quantum physics that I find most practical and beneficial have to do with the implicit uncertainty that's just part and parcel of everything having to do with quantum. What that means is, if you know one little piece of information about a quantum system, it's kind of like you're prevented from knowing the rest of it. And so it's getting to be okay. I feel into this on an intuitive level. Like, what does that show us? It shows us it's okay to be uncertain about things. Right. I see some other fun things in quantum phenomena, such as there's quantum tunneling, there's quantum teleportation, there's basically quantum jumps. And all of these have to do with very instantaneous seeming state changes, where you've got a quantum system that's one way, and the next moment it's completely different. You can see like a quantum jump of that would be where, say, an electron is in a certain energy state circling around really fast around the nucleus of a cell, and when it makes a quantum jump, it's jumping from one energy level to another. So it takes energy to make the jump, and people can see that now with the naked eye. We're able to see a quantum jump. That's a real quantum jump. It's nothing airy-fairy about that. It's 100% genuine and real. So if people say, well, like, that's not real, oh yes it is. But then when we bring it into our daily lives, that's a whole other matter. And then you're going to see skeptics, like anybody being skeptical of law of attraction. But hopefully your audience, of course, they keep an open mind. They're trying this out themselves.
Absolutely.
So this is where it gets super fun, because this is where, as I was saying just before we started, I think the biggest thing about quantum jumps and this whole quantum paradigm is that no matter what things may look like, and you might see it with your senses, feel it, everything, don't necessarily get discouraged and feel like you're stuck there. I think that is perhaps the biggest takeaway of all, because just because something looks a certain way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. It is changeable.
Yeah.
And do you change it by changing your vibration and or your energy? You talk about changing your vibes. And I've never thought about your energetic size. I've never contemplated that before. So maybe we can talk about that. But like to take a jump. So I left let's give me an example. So I left my corporate job after being an accountant for a gazillion years. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. My soul wants to do something different. It's very unclear what that different thing is. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, well, my job to maybe quantum jump, I don't know. Okay. My job right now is to make sure that I'm not trying to control anything and keeping my vibration high, but maybe I need to worry about my energetic size too. Not worry. This is the wrong term. Cancel.
Yeah,
we don't worry about anything.
Worry about it.
Okay. But well, I do, but I'm human.
Be more aware of it so you can manage it.
And so how would I go about quantum jumping into my new future? Because I don't think this is real actually. And the time is an illusion.
Right. Yes. All of space and time is kind of an illusion. It's complete Maya. That's what the mystics have said for thousands of years. And all of quantum physics and classical physics springs forth from something that's underneath space and time. We know that. And we're starting to see evidence of it with, there's mathematics of things that are showing us, like the amplituhedron, which is, there are all kinds of pointers showing us that space and time are completely, some people say it's dead, which is quite extreme. But I know what they're saying. It's kind of like, it's not really there. It's not real. There's something under it. And what is under it?
Something under it.
Yeah.
That's a great
way to think of it. Yeah. Visually too, in your head, I can see it, which helps also. Yeah. And
then the founder of quantum physics, who came up with the word quanta to begin with, that's physicist Max Planck. He said consciousness is fundamental. You cannot get behind consciousness. And what does he mean by that? It gets into this idea of conscious, you could call it agency, the free will that we all have, that we are something bigger than just our bodies. And we know that. We can, you can see it when a newborn baby is born and there's already someone in there. Well, how did that happen? How did that new little being show up there? And so, Holly, when you're looking at your job and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to make a quantum jump. First, it would be nice to recognize, to really listen to yourself. What I recommend for quantum jumping on a practical level is to feel attuned with the neurons in your head, the neurons in your heart, the neurons in your gut. It's like three different, three levels.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it
the
too.
gut too. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
So you want to do a lot of listening, and you want to feel like, okay, what am I visualizing? When I daydream, where does my mind wander? What's looking good to me? What do I truly, genuinely love in my heart? And then what do I absolutely need, which may be inconvenient, and it may be like, oh my God, that's embarrassing or whatever, but it's what you need. And so you need to, when you bring that together and then you're all of one piece, then I would say you're ready for quantum jumping. But I would recommend make sure that people listen to all of that. And that could take a while, days, weeks, months. That's okay. You want to really listen, tune in, really get that feeling of, okay, I'm feeling what I need is what I love. And it's what I'm daydreaming about. That's fantastic, because then you're lined up and you're ready to go. It's like you wouldn't launch a rocket unless everything was lined up properly. You need yourself lined up properly. Once you've got that, then you want to tap into what is the source of all consciousness. Some people call it God. Atheists would call it something else. They'd say, well, I could believe in goodness. Okay, then let's take a look at, it'll also look like zero entropy. In other words, it's infinite, it's eternal, right?
Yep.
And that's where the energy comes from. So you can call it whatever you want to call it. It's not offended. It's totally real. It's absolutely real. That's where the energy comes from. And then when you're lined up, that's basically what God, zero entropy is waiting for. It's kind of like, are you serious? because you don't look serious when you're kind of like all over the place.
Right. No, and if
I
one
love
of
this.
those, and I hadn't thought about the stomach and need.
Yeah.
I find that very interesting and important, because I think, the head and the heart, I think, make sense, but the gut for me has always been a big telltale part of my body, and never really thought about it with regard to need. So that's very, very enlightening.
Yeah, maybe that's where your gut issues are coming from.
I know. I need something.
Is you're ignoring your needs.
Clearly.
Oh, Gina.
I
Okay.
know. Doesn't that make sense? Never thought about it as a need, but that is.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that advice for young people too.
Especially,
it's amazing advice to proceed in the world. And
Yes.
and if more people find their calling sooner, I just feel like the world is a higher vibe place for sure.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Sorry,
Yes,
Gina,
please.
just
No,
one
go for
more
it.
thing. So about the energetic size, the vibe and the high vibe and the energetic size, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And how do we puff ourselves up? Is that what we want to do? How do we puff ourselves up?
Right.
That's the only time you're going to hear Holly or I say
Ever
we want to puff up.
ourselves.
Nobody else wants. In every other sense, no puffing.
No.
But this we want to puff in.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we got a good start. We're lined up. You got that alignment between the neural systems in your head, your heart, your gut. They're all lined up. You're ready to go. Tapped into God's source, whatever you want to call it. I love to ask, how good can it get when I wake up? I love to ask, how good can I get? How good can this day get? I just like, what I'm doing is I'm intentionally connecting with that infinite, eternal source energy. Right. And I'm calling it in instead of being shut off from it. I'm recharging. In other words, okay, let's bring it. Let's see how good this can get. Let's see how good I can get. Let's really rev it up. And so that's just this huge infusion of energy. And that's, it works best when you're lined up. So if you're, inflating things, it doesn't go boom. Because otherwise, if you haven't done that little pre-work, then oops, whatever you need is going to take center stage, and it could be embarrassing. Then it's like, that is my circus. These are my monkeys. Whoops.
Well, we're humans. Sometimes that does happen.
I love that. I just see the Ringling Brothers poster with our face on it, right? Like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love that.
That is very funny. Yeah. That we've actually used that line at corporate. We're like, okay,
not
this
my
is
circus,
not my monkeys. I'm going to step away from this.
Yeah.
We're not in this drama.
Yeah,
but
this is not mine.
Yeah, we're all human though.
Yeah,
it happens for all of us for sure.
And it's good to have a sense of humor if and when that happens, and realize, oops, and it's not the end of the world. And then just start over, listen again, tune in, listen to people often don't listen to their subconscious. You're not the only ones. So it's really, it could show up as health issues. It could show up as kind of gut feelings and just vague uncertainty and weird dreams and just feeling like you're in the wrong life or something. That's your subconscious. So it pays off to listen really deeply before you do that puffing up and inflating. Because what happens if you don't listen? You're puffing up those needs, and they're getting energized too.
Oh.
And it's exciting. I mean,
okay. So you could wait a minute. Okay. Let's stop the train a little bit. So if we're not in alignment,
right,
and we're puffing up, our needs are taking center stage instead of what our heart and what our minds are visualizing.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You're gonna.
Oh, and that's what creates the circus.
Complete sense.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't always get what you want.
Oh, I see the wheels.
The wheels are turning. After I watched my YouTube video on Physics 101 today to be ready for this interview, I mean, I'm smarter by the minute, and the wheels are rolling today.
That's really impressive that you actually did that. It means you were scared.
What goes up must come down. That's what I took from that. That's what I took from that. Yeah, no, that is incredible.
Oh my God, I love that. It's funny because I'm just going to make a little comment here. Is I wake up. Now, I didn't wake up today. We had graduation the whole weekend. I was a little exhausted today. Then I got all excited about Cynthia Sue Larson today. But I usually wake up and say, oh, what kind of magic is going to happen today? Because, we're about magic and conscious creation. And that kind of, somehow that gets me kind of excited. Like, ooh, surprise me. But I don't say surprise me with something good. Okay. Like, I left that part out. So I need to be a little bit more specific.
Because you want to be
how good can it get
got
today?
It. Yeah.
And make it even better.
Versus just magic.
Right. Okay. But
Yeah.
magic, I use magic because it's sort of like nothing makes me happier than to be surprised in good ways. Like, oh, and mystical good ways where I can sit and think. I mean, this for me is everything. Like things that I can't explain, I will get on the phone. I will go everywhere and tell everybody about it. And so I'm a mouthpiece for that kind of crap. Okay. Like I will bug her. I'll text her. You're not going to believe what happened, And so
I know.
I like those magical things to happen because then I can talk about them and hopefully invite, just like you, invite other people to create these too. But I think I'm going to put the good in there.
I think that's phenomenal.
And really,
you could add good and magic.
Sure.
You
right? Do you think?
Yeah.
Cynthia?
I just stick with good because I'm going straight to source, to that infinite, eternal source. I just bring that in, right? I just like, okay, we're starting there. How good can it get? That's for me. I'm making this indicator as an apex. It's like the perennial philosophy that the philosopher Leibniz talked about, and he's one of the two inventors of calculus, but basically looking at levels of perception, he was really good at that. And he's showing that all of the ways that we have spiritually of looking at what is this, what is that ultimate observer, just comes to an apex. It gets to a point where we can't quite observe it. That's what I mean when I'm asking how good can it get. I'm going straight to source. And I'm saying, let's bring that in. Let's infuse that. Not to be confused with what I think in my head is good. I'm not going with that. I'm going straight to the highest level. So I may not see that it's good at first. And I might think, what happened? My hot water heater's not working. But then I find out I'm getting a better system than I ever knew, like an on-demand heater. Now my room is bigger. It's like I remodeled during a pandemic without having to pay that much money. And it's like, woo, look at all this space.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, I think one of the things that you said that's so very important is that you're open to, if it doesn't look good in the beginning, you're open to see, because honestly, sometimes you have to wait a little longer to see oh, gee, that really transacted that. I always call it like the web. There's a web of stuff happening that we don't understand.
Yeah, you can ask, where's the gift? And you can recognize, maybe I'm expanding, maybe I am puffing up. And so like if you're getting bigger and like, oh, this is so cool. So things are a little better. I can feel it. It's going in a good direction.
That's great.
How do you define, because, like I said, our podcast is, making conscious creation a lifestyle. How do you describe consciousness?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because it's kind of the foundation of everything. It's to me, it's identity. It's like each, it's like it comes in levels. I can talk around it, but it's hard to really define what it is. We each know what it is because we know our consciousness. Like I know I am the being who calls herself Cynthia, who's more than this physical body. But consciousness itself, what is that? That's everything. That's the source of life. It's the source of beauty, the source of truth and wonder and love, and everything comes from it. So what is it? Yeah. The great mystery. It's the great.
Yeah. Well, and I asked the question because I think, me personally, and until we really started getting into this work, thought of consciousness as an active engagement in being aware and present in what I'm doing. But it's so much more than that. And so I think, and for myself, for our listeners, to really broaden our awareness or understanding of what consciousness is, because I think we narrow it to what our humanness would define as consciousness, right?
Right.
Especially when we contrast it with subconscious mind. I think people think, oh, that's all this sort of narrative that I'm not actively engaged in that happens, the soundtrack that's running in my head around, how I should feel about something, what I'm thinking about something, all of those sorts of things. And I don't think we have as broad of a definition around consciousness as we need to.
Yes. Right. Well, I think we're doing the best we can with what we've got. So everyone's working at their levels of, it is a levels of consciousness situation. And just like within each of us, we get to practice. We get to practice with the level of high self, middle self, low self. And we're doing it all the time. How is, what's that look like? What kind of report cards would we give ourselves? And it's good to focus on yourself, keep improving yourself. Don't dwell on others, although it's tempting, but it's so easy to look at someone else and say, look, they're making a mess of it. But What?
Yeah, we're not supposed to judge. That's one of our badassery principles. We have 10 of them. We say the only diet we approve is a judgment-free one. We try not to judge, like it's almost impossible to not always judge, but that is something that we just, stay in our own lane, put our nose in our own face. That's my thing. I'm like, because I like to die. Oh, you need help. Let me help you. Mine's more of a helping, not a judging.
Right.
And that's not good either. Like stick your nose on your own face and help when you need to, when you're asked. When you're asked. Okay.
But Holly's new strategy on that, though, let me just tell you, is I would like to help you. Are you okay
I'd like
with
to
that?
give you some advice. Could you ask me? But I'm not supposed to give it to you unless you ask me. Can you ask me for advice? And then I get my wish.
Circumventing her.
I think that's called bullying. Anyway, okay, so I have a question.
Blackmail,
it's blackmail and bullying. Well, no, blackmail is they have to. They have to give you there's a transaction or something.
Yes.
So, okay, so we always talk and delight in synchronicities.
Yes.
And so, Cynthia, how do we invite more, and oftentimes we've talked about this in the past, how do we invite more synchronicities into our lives? I love talking about these. I love rolling around with them. I love every part of synchronicity. So, and then I'm like, well, did I create this or,
Well, and can I ask an expansion on that question?
Yes.
What are synchronicities indicators that you're on the right path and you might be puffing? That's my other question. Like, are the synchronicities that we are being shown, that we're present and aware and noticing, are they an indicator of something to come or bigger?
Absolutely.
We're on path. Okay.
Yeah. It's all connected. Yeah. And I love that question, because when we notice a synchronicity, it's a meaningful coincidence. And as you know, Carl Jung first had that coining of the term when he was noticing these things happening. And definitely there's a connection with that puffiness, that connecting with that eternal, infinite source energy, which when you allow it yourself to become unblocked to it, it's already there. It's there for all of us. There's an unlimited supply. It's not, no one's been cut off. No one's unfortunate. No one's been blighted or cursed, or maybe they feel that way, but you can remove those blocks and everybody gets to receive that same beautiful, amazing energy source, which is infinite and eternal. And it's like 0 point energy. What is that? It's available for all of us. That is like super important. And then to notice the synchronicity, gets really interesting, because you need to be observant. You need to actually notice, because you may have friends like this where something amazing happens and they just seem like, what? And you're like, are you kidding? Like, did you just see that? And they don't really see it somehow. But because when we notice these things often when we're together with others, because there's more energy. You'll notice it when you're feeling great, when you're listening to your favorite music. So there are ways you can boost that up if you don't know how to meditate. I know you ladies do, but some people might feel like, I'm terrible at meditating. I try, I fall asleep, it doesn't work. Okay, don't give up. But
it can be different for everybody, and nothing is wrong.
Right. So you can totally find a favorite focus of attention. I love what you said, Gina, that yes, attention matters. And so this is a good practice point. Just pick something, like your breath is a good one. You can always practice slowing it down, calming yourself, and just noticing how you're feeling. Another one I personally love is just noticing, it's like cloud busting. So all the worries and concerns, you can think of them like little thought forms in your head.
Oh yeah.
And then you can just like clear it until it gets to a blue sky.
Oh,
just do
that is so good. Like, I love that. Let it float away.
Yeah. And then it's just that little practice time. So you get that experience of feeling like, this is kind of relaxing. I feel better. And it's wonderful, because you get that experience that you can let those worries and concerns go, and you're still there. You're still fine. Everything still continues.
Right.
And then it's also a big eye opener. Like, that was sure a lot of them, or how come they keep coming in? And they'll do that, but you just keep clearing it.
Keep moving them out. Yeah.
And you have meditations. Our listeners can find her meditations on our website, and links there. Yeah. I love that meditation. I also think being out in nature is helpful, but I will say, because I always give this example of my son wanting a manager for his producing, and we were talking about it at breakfast, and then the next day some guy comes over for some equipment or something and says, I want to be your manager. And I was like, oh, the universe is listening, and that's so quick. Like, I get excited when they're responsive. I get very excited. I mean, I know time is an illusion, but somehow I'm very connected to it. And so I was like, go.
Yeah.
So I was, yes. Okay. So I was like, okay, he responded, or he or she or it, whatever it is, it responded. And my son's like, no, this guy's terrible. I'd never have him as a manager. And I'm like, no, you're 2 steps closer. So I think even like the small progression needs to be given some celebration, acknowledgement or something.
I totally agree with that. It's kind of like and that's something so important for anybody manifesting. I'll give a quick example. I like to do genealogical research for fun, and I've got a friend, and I've been trying to help her find information about her grandmother. And it's a long story. It's so juicy and good, but I'm just going to cut it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
No, I can already tell. I can
know.
tell on the face it's good.
It's so good, but I'm not going to get into all that.
Yeah.
It's like too much. But the long story short, I finally found what high school she went to. She had a common last name, Hall, Hall, in the Seattle area, like in the.
Oh, I know Hall's in the Seattle area.
Yeah, but there's so many of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my best friend was a Hall.
Oh, wow.
In elementary school.
Well, here's what happened though. What happened is I was looking on eBay to see if I could find this ancient yearbook from the year 1914 or whatever. I forget what it's 1924, some early thing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite find the right one, but I could find that yearbook, but a slightly different year. And I got that for a gift for my friend for her birthday. And she understands like this, like, oh, we're so much closer. We're going to find that yearbook with her grandmother, because it's kind of like when you find something, then you're calling it in. You're getting the excitement energy. You're feeling like this is so real. And so for your son, it's like, okay, I'd never hire that manager. Okay, but just the fact.
But listen, I love that. That's a great story. It's funny that I know Halls too, and we're out of the Seattle area, but
that's interesting.
We're south of Seattle. So if it's in the Tacoma area, then you want to talk to me.
It was south of Seattle. So never mind the details. I mean, we'll probably end up having this weird synchronicity right here.
Yes, I think we might.
I know.
Okay, well, we'll connect after the show.
I know. That's so crazy.
That is so weird. Yes, because I south of Seattle and and. Okay, well, interesting. Okay, so I love that. So the other core value that we have is fun and and play
and playfulness
and magic and all this reality shifting is absolute magic to me. So how do we play and have fun
and practice
with reality shifting? Let's do reality shifting.
Well, one of my favorite exercises is when you've got something in mind and you see something that it's like, oh, I don't want this, whether it's your current financial situation or the health of a loved one. It could be a pet. We had a situation with our family dog where it looked like he had cataracts, and I saw it when I was just petting him one day, and he's passed away now, but many years ago, I was just out there hugging him, telling him, love you forever, like I would do. And I looked in his eyes and like, oh, wow, they're a little cloudy. It looks like cataracts. Yeah. And I just thought, no, I didn't just think it. I thought it. I knew how much I love him, and I needed him to not have cataracts. And so it was just me and the dog in that moment. And then I look at his eyes again, like, oh, they're clear. Oh, thank goodness. Well, I'm not going to say anything about this because I didn't want to lock in that other reality. But then a little bit later, I think it was my daughter who came to me, and it's her dog. And then she said, Mom, bad news about the dog. And I said, oh, it's at his eyes. And she said, yes. And then I just told her what I just told you. And we live in this household of like reality shifting. And so I said, well, here's what you do. Like, yeah, I know it looks like sometimes he might look like he has cataracts, but you feel like that's not what you want to see. You know, you love the dog, and we need that he does not have vision problems. He's not going to go blind. And I said, and then it clears up. And so she did that. She's like, oh, okay. And then the third person in the household, my husband, came to me, same thing. And I went through the whole thing again. He's like, oh, okay. And then the dog never did have cataracts again, lived years longer, and that never showed up. So it's such an interesting example. I love that example for so many reasons, but you get a feeling of how we are these conscious creators, obviously, and we collaborate, which is sometimes we don't recognize how much we're doing that. The energy totally matters, like having the fun that you're talking about, it puffs up that energy. And when you recognize, never mind what it looks like, sometimes it looks that way. And you give it permission, a very quantum thing to recognize. Sometimes it's sometimes it's a wave, sometimes it's a particle. It's like, it can look like that, but you recognize it has room to play, and we're not going to look at it too closely. So this is a very powerful tool for any situation, is to know sometimes it looks that way, like we don't have enough money, or it looks like we have an incurable disease or whatever, or it looks like what have you. But we know that things can change.
Yeah.
Well, so I do love that example. I have a dog I need to work on too, but so I love that you collaborated with everybody who was looking at that dog and noticing. So is that part of the process? So I'm sort of process oriented. And is that sort of the process? So we're loving the dog. We're saying, okay, it looks like that, but that doesn't mean it's that. Okay. That's
yeah, exactly. And
it's not that you ignore it or you don't, like, mine needs drops. You put the drops in just because you feel like it, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Because there is it's like it looks like this now, but it doesn't need to be this.
Right. I also love, with health and with a pet, I love to acknowledge what would be another possible explanation for what this might be, and just and so to keep that kind of in that realm of possibility.
Right. I love that.
Yeah, it's not, it's acknowledging it could be many things, not just that. And it won't be that.
And it could change in a second, in a split second. And then you might feel like, oh, it never was. And that's okay. Kind of like no questions asked.
I've shifted things like that before.
No, you have.
Like
you have.
Yes, 100%. I definitely have. And I didn't know I was doing it.
Well, especially like health-wise for you.
Oh yeah. I believe in shifting health things. It doesn't, yes, absolutely. So, and dog things.
Many times.
Yes. Okay. But you can shift anything. So we were talking right before we hit record, we were talking about beautiful nature and shifting nature even.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Nature is very responsive to our thoughts and our feelings. And when we're aligned, it's easier. Like, children have an easier time doing any of the stuff that we're talking about, because they're already naturally more aligned. The misalignments happen as we mature and grow up in our civilized societies. So you can sense conscious agency everywhere. And physicist Archibald Wheeler, John Archibald Wheeler, he was one who said that when you ask nature a question, nature always answers. And we can see that in quantum experiments. But we can also witness this with weather. And you can ask a question, and make sure you're asking questions you want to live the answers to. So, and so John Archibald Wheeler, he's bringing our attention to the questions. And so this is where, when you ask how good can it get, then okay, that would be a great question to live the answer to. Or how magical and good can it get? You might like that, Holly, or whatever it might be. For weather, you can ask questions like, how wonderful a week, can we have this week with the weather? You can kind of open it up to that and experience changes. So if you're up in Seattle and it seems dreary, you might get more sunshine. We need the rain down in California, so we're thrilled. We just got a good 3 inches of rain, which is a freak June rainstorm. But it's not a freak when I actually know that my trees have conscious agency, the redwoods near my property. I do talk to them. That's what we were saying before the show. And so if people do talk to your trees, even if you feel like I don't know what they're saying, talk to them anyway, with all your heart, with all your being. What I was saying to my trees, they're not mine, but they're going to live. I hope they outlive me by a lot. They're capable of it. These trees can live thousands of years. And so what I was thinking and feeling and saying to these beautiful beings is, I know it looks like we're having a drought right now. And I know it looks like, if you're reading our human minds, you're hearing drought, scrimp and save on the water, don't give it to the trees. I said, guess what? You're the elders here. And I know that you change the weather pattern in our entire area. So I will be always choosing, if all my water supplies are dwindling, guess what? You get the water. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing you. And so since I've been doing that, I've been feeling this love coming back and weather patterns changing. So if people are open to talking to trees, you can do that. And if your flowers and plants want more sun, you can share that vision with them and watch the weather change. And it's so much fun.
Well, you said something that's beautiful, and I don't do it nearly enough. Mm-hmm. So a good reminder to really be present when we're outside and engaged with Mother Earth. But you said with all your heart.
Yeah.
And I, and even when you were, talking about, the example with your dog,
right,
with all your heart. And I think, for those of us, and I put myself in this camp because we've talked about it on the podcast before, who sort of have disconnected the head and the body a little bit, sometimes feeling from the heart. We've had a few podcasts where we really talk about feeling what's in your chest, or doing things from a chest base versus a head based decision. So, I just wanted to make sure to call that out because I think that's critical. We could be sane and doing all these things, but if it's not from the heart and fully with love and our spirit and our soul, I'm assuming the results are not the same.
Oh my gosh, I love how you're emphasizing this, and you're right.
Yeah,
it makes all the difference in the world. So it's I think you notice it if you go to a friend's house and there's someone's cooked with love, and you're like, what did you do?
We talk about this a lot. Yes, this is so true.
Yes. I don't even fold laundry. I used to hate folding laundry, and I was like, I'm just folding their clothes with yuck. Okay, now it's folding it with love.
Right. Yeah. Yes. That's it.
But that happened a long time ago. I was realizing,
such a great point.
I hate doing this, and blah, blah. And then I thought, okay, well, how do I change my situation, infuse more love in it? It's not like I like to do it anymore. So I thought, I will bless the clothes and then watch Netflix while I do it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And because that was like a guilty pleasure,
high energy,
as I was when my kids were little. And, I would trick myself into giving myself a little treat and blessing the clothes, and it became a fun experience.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be so serious about it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're asking how good can it get, that is what starts happening as I start living my life in love. I'm in love with everything. And I go in the garden, I'm using the hose, and I'm feeling all that love. And then I'm surprised when a blue jay lands on a branch right next to my, like 5 feet from me, looking at me. And I've got a hose in my hand, and it's just there because it feels the love. And I'm like, wow. So
I actually talk to them. I do talk to them.
The birds. I talk to the birds all the time.
I talk to all of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's so beautiful.
It changes everything. And you can talk to everything. You can talk to your house. You can talk to your money. You can talk to everything. Everything has there's conscious agency behind every material thing, because space-time is like this waking dream. We're like living in a lucid dream, and that's how we can have the synchronicities when you energize up and you feel like, wait a minute, and you start observing yourself from a higher level. That's when the magic really starts happening, and big time.
Love that.
Well, what the interesting thing is that I don't think until you said it like this, I think of nature as living and being, and I don't think of money as I do think of money as energy, but why would I not connect it as a being? And so I know she's smiling at me.
So true.
So I feel like there's a shift here in thinking for myself, for the audience, about talking to money. What? Okay. And you wrote a whole book on this, high energy money. And should we be talking to money?
Yeah.
What does that look like? And is it the same as nature?
Well, there's conscious agency. Again, it gets to that question, what is consciousness and what's fundamental? And if space-time is dead, what's behind it? What's going on? It's consciousness. And conscious agency has these, people used to call it spirits in nature, that there'd be a spirit of a mountain, there'd be a spirit in the forest, a spirit in animals. And some of us who are sensitive to these things would agree, yes, absolutely. So with things that humans create, like it could be a car. Some people feel like there's a spirit in the car. And some people take care of their cars that way and treat them like they're their baby, and like
they name them. Yes.
So I'm not making fun of it. I'm saying yes. No. I'm saying yeah. Absolutely. And so money is also a creation, and whatever form it may take, whether it's the dollar bills or the coins or gold, or whether it's in some bits and bytes somewhere, it's got a spirit. It's been created. And when you have a good relationship with your money, which is your bank accounts, your holdings, then you are the caretaker of that. And it's just like with the laundry example. How many people are just feeling terrible when they're dealing with their money? Like, oh my God, taxes, bills,
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And what the goal would be to get to do the trickery. I love what you did, put together a guilty pleasure, something that's fun and not harmful, hopefully.
Yeah, right.
And put that together with doing the taxes or paying the bills or the job that you're doing, and start feeling like you're shifting the whole relationship, because we can do this with everything and everyone. All of our relationships, including money relationships, can be improved by recognizing there could be conscious agency here. What if my bank account does have consciousness? I propose, yes, it does. You can connect with it. You can start thanking it for being there. Start, being grateful for what there is. Recognize that it can look like it has so much money in it now, but it can instantly be transformed in amazing ways for the better. Like, how good can it get? Asking that question.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So I love that. So our audience, your up level assignment is to, well, there's so many here. Okay. But one of them is to create a new relationship if needed. Okay. Create a new relationship with money. I'm going to talk to money. I used to, when I would write checks, and we rarely do that anymore, write checks, but I used to put little hearts and thank you for your service to the utility people, because I hated writing checks. And so I thought, I got to shift that, I have to shift that thought. Now I barely do that anymore. But now when I look at my accounts, so just when we look at our accounts and we observe it, just like we're observing nature, I love this. It's weird to connect them, but I love this weirdness. Okay. So quirky weirdness is good. We connect them and say, thank you for being here. Thank you for your prosperity. Thank you for allowing me the freedom to whatever, that kind of consciousness connection. Yeah. Is that what you'd say, Cynthia?
We're welcoming goodness into every single thing. Yes. We're recognizing conscious agency is everywhere. It's everywhere, everywhere. Right. And we're just welcoming it and greeting it and inviting it, and then opening our relationship to it. It's, this can bring heaven to earth in such a powerful way.
Oh wow. Yes. I love that.
Okay. Listen though, for you, Cynthia, given your background, I would imagine definitely more Western linear. Do people get like wound around the axle around this? Nothing really is what you think it is sort of thing in anything. Cause I'm just, when we talk about time and space being dead and that there's something bigger beneath it. And I mean, do people start to get have an anxiety attack? Because I do think from a human standpoint, there is this element where humans want some
anchor into reality,
some grounding, something they know truly what it is. So I'm just kind of curious. I'm just given all your background, as much work as you've done in this. You're an expert in all this.
Great question.
Is this something you see, and what to those people? What do you say?
Well, each person is unique. So every person's subjective experience is completely as individual as a fingerprint. So what they feel, they can feel like, okay, I feel safe here. It's going to be different for each person. Often nature can be quite good for a lot of people. Nature can often be very nurturing and often very soothing. And often there can be a sense that there's intrinsic goodness when you can look at nature, no matter what this traumas and stress may have been, which are very unique and individual to each person. So there is no cookie cutter answer for everybody.
Sure.
What calms one person might be terrifying to someone else.
Right.
So learning to trust one's own intuition and listening to these levels of self, really, especially the gut. Really listening to the dreams, the daydreams, waking up and writing your dreams down, listening to the subconscious, really opening that conversation. And then if you feel frightened, recognize, well, what's the ultimate goodness here? Where's the gift in this?
Right.
How could I expand to receive a gift? Whereas if I contract, I'll be stuck in the fear. these kind of questions can help us
so good
climb out of our paper bags that we get stuck in temporarily.
I love that. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know you talk a bunch about lucid dreaming, and I have a lot of you're fine. I have a lot of questions about that because I'm one of those people. I mean, honestly, I'm so Pisces, but somehow I don't remember my dreams. And so for people that don't think, I mean, I know I dream, so I'm not one of those people, but
every once in a while you'll remember it.
Yeah.
But pretty
it's
rare,
weird
though.
as hell.
Yeah,
okay. But,
yeah.
but I don't usually dream, and I'm starting to know them. So the people that don't think they dream, or they want to have a more active, experience with their dream world. I think the young people talk about lucid dreaming because it's almost like going into a game, and they're the gamers.
My kids talk about it. They're working at it.
Yeah. Lucid dreaming. So how do you know your dreams? How do you lucid dream? I mean, how do you get there?
Well, it's good to start just with remembering regular dreams. That's a big step, and then high five. Like I remembered one. And just it's good, intentions help, so you can go to sleep and say, tonight I'll remember my dreams when I wake up in the morning, or I'll have a meaningful dream. I'm going to ask a question before I fall asleep and I'll get the answer. So
I love that.
You can start with playing with your dreams that way, and be gentle with yourself, because a lucid dream, that's such an exciting thing when it happens. What it means is you're in a dream, and then you wake up inside the dream and you realize, oh my gosh, this is a dream. And sometimes the excitement is so huge that the person wakes up instantly.
Right.
And so then you want to just practice. One of my favorite ways to practice is to tell yourself right now, I know we're awake right now, but this is how to practice. Just invite yourself to say, like, what if this is a dream right now? And then play with it, like, and then just keep kind of teasing yourself, like, this is a dream. And like, how would I know? And what's going to start naturally happening is you're focusing that attention and that intention, and you're playing with these levels of consciousness that you have.
Yeah.
And so
I love that.
So these are some fun things to do to explore.
That is fun.
It's like practicing.
You're right. Like the young people, we have younger. I mean, my son's 21. Yours is 17.
Yep.
They are playing with lucid dreaming. And waking up in the dream.
Yeah, they talk about it a lot. Madison does too. My older daughter.
I don't know whether the younger people just have less blocks for some of this stuff.
And that's such a good thing to be practicing, because those are going to be our future quantum jumping experts. That is how you do this.
Yep.
I think
awesome. Leonardo DiCaprio in some of those movies helped bring the awareness to this lucid dreaming business.
Amazing. I was thinking about that when I was researching you, Cynthia. I was like, oh, listen, you'd be a great film writer. Okay, like you could do some crazy fun stuff in your films. Have you ever thought about doing that?
A little bit. Oh, yeah. But there's so many good movies right now. It seems like
I know, but there's so many good more that aren't out there yet that could have a message.
So many of them have been inspired by dreams.
Right.
The authors have, like, Twilight.
Yeah.
She had a dream about Edward and then wrote the story around it. So I don't know. I'm just saying she did financially really well in this situation. That would be she had a good relationship with money.
I feel like Cynthia's done everything now except for that. So we got to get you on it.
Yeah.
Right. An amazing fiction crazy.
Forget the book next time.
It's not fiction. Nonfiction.
Yeah.
But people think it's fiction.
Yeah.
It's nonfiction. Okay. Yeah. And then take everybody by storm in Hollywood.
Yes.
We'll help you cast.
Yeah, we'll help with casting. We can be your agents. We can shop it for you. We're on it. We're on it. Oh yeah,
yes, we're totally on it for you. Okay, listen. This has been an amazing conversation,
fantastic
Cynthia.
Conversation.
We love it. You are an expert of all these things, and thank you so much for all your generosity, your time. Your studies,
enlightening us.
Incredible. So, have we gone anywhere else? Did we hit everything that you think is important for our audience? Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with today?
I think you ladies are doing great. Thanks for inspiring people and bringing people together to think about these topics and explore them and know that it can be fun. And that when you're having fun, the energy is there. You can ask these questions like, how good can it get? And just ramp up whatever is already happening in your lives. And it can be safe. It can be fun. I think that's the main thing to emphasize because people get worried. That was something you mentioned, Gina, and it's true.
Yeah.
So if you feel if anyone's listening to this and thinking I'm not ready, well, just you can unfold and blossom like a flower. It'll happen at the right time for you.
Yeah. Be patient with yourself.
Patient, be kind.
And no judgment.
Yep. Kindness is good.
Kindness is good.
Are any of your books on audio?
Yes. Okay.
Do you read them?
I do, most of them. Like quantum jumps, reality shifts. Yes.
I mean, you've got the most delightful voice.
Yes,
so I was like, I would just buy it and put on repeat just to hear you talk. Yeah.
Well, and you can go check her out on her podcast,
all her podcasts.
as well. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll
Excellent.
put all the links in the show notes. And we just are really happy you're with us today.
Thank you for everything. Really love you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
Love you too. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.